Yeah, I was just like super pumped to get the message of how well you ran Gatlin over the last several months and wanted to hear more about it. And I'm always interested in the training aspect of like how you did it, Mark, how you set it up, the fueling aspect, the mentality, the injury prevention aspect. So, yeah, Gatlin, why don't you tell your last few races and how they went?
Um, I got August 16th, I did the USATF 50K champs and I got ninth. It went really well. I'm always grateful for the things I do, but I'm always like, okay, what could I have done better? Because I got really good at the climbing and the technical stuff and the eating, but the going downhill, like how steep I gotta figure out a way to replicate it trashing my legs because I got to like mile 25 and it felt like my legs feel um my quads like if I ran a marathon. Like so it was weird because I've done 50 milers and it never feel that way. But this had like not technical downhills most of the way, but it had super steep, very runnable downhills. So you were going like 5 minute pace down a hill for several minutes and then that just adds up and then you immediately start going up super steep, which is fine. My glutes and my hamstrings didn't even remotely get sore, but it was like my calves and my quads. So I was like, I need to do that better because I had good energy at the end, but I was definitely losing time at the end. I was like, oh no, oh no.
So, I heard this quote from, do you guys watch the Tour de France at all?
I used to a lot more in the Bradley Wiggins and Chris Froome days, but I haven't cared too much about it lately.
Yeah.
I'm
What
very
about you,
passive.
Mark?
Uh, I have a lot of friends that talk a lot about it, so I hear all the updates from them, but I don't personally watch too much of it.
So I got into it this year for some reason, which I normally don't. But dude, I love Tadej Pogacar. Like, I like his name. I think he's a crazy good like personality, and like he's just a guy that seems to love training in the sport. And Gatlin, he said something that I think was like interesting to me about downhill. They were like, well, the downhills are days are pretty easy, right? And he said, actually, no, because they'll go downhill. And then when you get to a spot where you can pick it up, like it's like an all out sprint. And then you rest again, but then you sprint again. And so he was like, it's actually pretty fatiguing because you have these change of gears the whole time. And I feel like that's what happens when you have a hilly running course too.
Yeah, and I learned it from this race and the last race because there was a really fun kind of newer pro who got like top 10 at Western States and I think he got second at the Canyons 100K. Me and him were talking a lot in the second lap. He's like, yeah, if it's under 50 miles, he compares it to like a bike race where it's like we start out fast and we settle in and then it's like people just start doing like intervals. And
Yes.
that's what the USATF 50K felt like. I was just like, it's like everyone would just run away and then people would come back and then they would form up and then someone would like go up and I'm just like this feels like a bike race. This is so weird. And I never really I don't experience that on a 50 mile. Usually it's people just go and attrition. This is just like taking turns doing moves and I'm like I need to change things a little bit because we would do this really steady climb and then some guy would just bolt and I'm like he just kept up with us for this you know mile climb and then all of a sudden did like 520 pace for like 3 minutes kind of up a grade. And I'm like, all right, I feel like I need to replicate that because that's just,
So, so do you feel like that was advantageous of him to take off like that? Like, are you trying to get to the point where you can make some of those moves, or are you thinking that you can be smarter and not cover some of the moves and run faster overall?
well, it is fast. It is funny because I think it depends on the terrain and the environment. So like I come from a very like humid and it's very rocky here. Wild West was like 55, 60 degrees and low humidity, it felt like me and my wife were joking, saying we got out of the cars like this feels like Christmas. Like this is what it's like on Christmas in Alabama most of the time. So those people could do that and they get away with it, and I don't think they have to worry about like overheating. Where it happened at this recent race where we were doing moves on each other, and I guess I was accustomed to just the overheating, and he did this big move, and I think it affected him more than he thought because he was honest at the end. He's like, that affected me more than I thought. And um, but in the out west, it was just different. Like I think that you can get away with it because if you do the attacks in the heat and it's super climbing, super steep, and you're going slower, I think people just overheat
You're
faster.
toast. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's totally true.
Because I think they would do a move and I would just let it go. And I'm like, I can't do that. Like I just raced last weekend. This is probably kind of dumb what I'm doing now, racing this super steep technical 20 miler in the heat a week after. So I didn't give up, but I was like, oh, he probably just won and that's okay. And then unfortunately, he took a little bit of a wrong turn that he thinks I still would have got him, but I don't know. He's very, very kind man. And then, it affected him later, he said, because we kept pushing pretty hard. So
So Mark, what did you think about Gatlin's performance? How was the prep? Like, what did you think were some of the keys training wise that you guys tried and were successful with, or maybe some things that you tried and what weren't successful?
Yeah, I think it was funny before this call. I went back and because I mean, Gatlin and I have been working together for a while now. And so I was like, well, how long has it been? Because, sometimes when you've been going, it just feels like, oh, well, it's been a while. But we started back first working together in August of 2022. And I remember I always, when I get a new run for athlete, I always like have an intake call and kind of take notes on like, hey, where are they at in life? And at that point, you weren't married, but you were getting married in November, which is kind of crazy because my wife and I had just got married the month before Gatlin and I started working together. So it was kind of fun. Like I feel like, I mean, Gatlin and I are pretty much the same age and kind of going through different phases of life together. So that was fun. But as far as like the training aspect of that goes, I think like we have to look back at that to see why he's having some of the success he's having now. And I think like, I mean, in the 3 years we've been working together, Gatlin's been like very consistent with training. I don't think we've had a period in those 3 years where he's had to take more than 10 days off. And we've had ebbs and flows of training, and we'll probably get into some of the crazy things that he's been able to do in training to kind of handle some of the races. But yeah, he's definitely an athlete that's like just an aerobic monster, and I think he's also extremely coachable, and is willing to do whatever and try a lot of different things. And so I think like as I've evolved as a coach and as he's evolved as an athlete, and I think like we're very much collaborating on some thoughts. And I think like where his knowledge of maybe some trails and some of these more ultra distances, it's gotten me to dig a lot more and do a lot more research and talk to some of the other run free coaches like Rachel that have had maybe some of that actual experience running. But the big thing is just like we've tried to make Gatlin just super strong and super consistent. And I think it's cool to see like the snowball effect of the years has kind of getting to the point where it's just like, hey, this is normal for him to be able to handle something like that.
So I want to talk about specifics of training, but before that, have something that I've been thinking about a lot lately, just from a coaching standpoint that you just mentioned, Mark. Um, I think that running well, the key is really consistency. And we would all probably agree with that. Like you've got to be consistent. You can't have big breaks. But how do you get that consistency is what I've been thinking about. And I've also been just observing the prevalence now of double long run days, or a partial long run on Saturday and another one on Sunday to add up to a bigger effort for an ultra athlete, or 12 in the morning, 12 in the evening to add up to something bigger, or whatever the case may be. And then go down to like 5K, 10K, and the prevalence now of double threshold. And Mark, we've talked about that, how successful those things are. And so I've thought about why. Why are those successful? And I think a couple things are going on. I think when you load up those big double days or double couple days, I don't know about you guys, but when I do it, it calms me down. And it allows me to hit a level of intensity that's slightly lower than I would if I was just doing one workout. And so my thought process and my question to you guys is, with the level of intensity being slightly lower, I wonder if that's the correct intensity anyway, irregardless, right? Even if you weren't doing a double threshold day, maybe we all need to just chill out a little bit and make sure we get in good work consistently and we don't like thrash workouts. Because for me, it's so easy to just go out and like put the pedal to the metal because I'm motivated. I want to do well. I want to kill it. But then that double threshold day has been introduced, and now I'm running better. My athletes are running better. I think so many people are doing more volume. I think all that did was calm us down and get us to run in the right zones and the right intensity. And then one last thing with that, I've tested athletes' lactate for 20 years, and they're never right. The athlete has never been right, not once, where they said, I'll say, what do you think your threshold is? And then we'll run it, we'll test it. It'll be 5, 7, 8 millimoles. It's nowhere near threshold. They're always way faster than they think they should be, or they're running way faster than they should be. So they're misinterpreting their exertion. So anyway, I know that's a loaded question, but what do you guys think about those thoughts and consistency and intensity?
Mark made me a believer of it pretty quick because because he said we started in August and then I got married in November, and I can't remember. I think I did a big trail race in August, like right after we started. Like he just said like good luck because like he hadn't even started coaching me. He was like have fun. Like he pretty much wrote out the taper and was like all right. And then I think we got ready for a 10K, and we did a few like 2 mile time 2 mile time trial, figure out where we're at, and then we did I don't think the 10K went well, but that was because I was getting married and I didn't eat enough because I was nervous, and I try to be an intuitive eater and I felt flat. So when we did all this stuff, and it was like we do a little bit of 10K pace, but we never did like half marathon pace. And there was one I was wanting to do a few weeks after I got married. And I remember I was in Arizona, and we were doing like 3x2 mile, and like I'm thinking I need to do these what I used to do, like 5:15, 5:10 pace. But he was like, 5:30, 5:40 pace, and I was just like, oh, okay, I'll be ready for like a decent marathon. And I didn't like not trust him, but I just said, whatever, I'm gonna see what happens. And then I go and do this half marathon, and I don't feel like I've done that much work for it specifically, and it was the same exact course as my PR's on, and my PR was 109.02, and then we go and do this race, same exact course with the more, I guess, right effort, and then I more comfortably run like 109.11, and I'm like, well, dang, what was that? How did that happen? But when I ran 109.02, I had to bury myself. But when I did 109.11, same exact course, same exact race, the whole thing, I was like, huh, well, would you look at that? And then that was the beginning of whatever he said. I'm like, okay, because he will literally put stuff, and it used to freak me out, especially in the summer. I think he's gotten good at figuring out how fast or slow I need to run in the summer because it's like 90 degrees, 90%
Yep.
humidity. We'll do like double threshold, and it's like 5:45, 5:50 pace, and I have a lot of like fast friends and I love them to death, but I can't run with them because
They hammer.
they will do 520 pace in the heat, and I can't do that, and I can't do that in the summer with my job because I have a finite amount of energy, and but I get it does very well, especially he'll do these short like strength stuff, speed stuff, and then couple with that, and then it always works out. So I'm just like, whatever. Like I did a bunch of that getting ready, and I never questioned it. And then I PR'd on this one of my favorite races, which is going up this hill in the summer and all this stuff. And I was like, huh, well, there it is again. So it
What
worked.
is your heart rate at 540 pace in 90 degrees?
I try to keep it under one. If it's a hill, it depends.
Yeah, it
If it's
always depends with heart rate.
there's a fun cross country course I like to do that's like dirt or not cross country course, but it's a I tell him it's a cross country course because I think that's what the middle schoolers do, but it's not a cross country course. It's just a dirt 2K loop. That'll be like I try to keep everything under like 165. If it's super flat, and it's warm, the heart rate will maybe be 158, 159, and I just try to keep it around that, and then I try to figure out the effort, but like you said, I don't always know. I just look and go, okay, and then I go from there.
So
And
the
there are
lack.
sometimes, hmm,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
and there's sometimes in the afternoon. It's weird in Alabama. It'll be less humid in the afternoons, and he will say I can run like 530 pace and stuff like that, and I will. But there has been occasions where I've kind of like slipped up and I will run lower 520 pace in the heat and it feels okay in the afternoon, but then I notice like 3 weeks later of doing that, I'm like, oh, I'm more tired, but I'm like eating enough and I'm doing everything else right. So that's the variable. So I was very good about that this block, and there was never a point where I was like, I'm doing too much and I messed something up. There was one long run that like didn't go great, but that was because I didn't eat enough when I like worked a lot the day before. But it's never been from I'm running too fast or anything. So it works. Long story short.
Yeah, I would say similar heart rates in the heat to keep uh, the true threshold pace accurate. Like it's really stinking hard to keep it under control when it's hot. Like your heart rate just goes up so high if you get overexerted over that threshold limit. And not to say that we do everything at threshold pace, but I do think that that's foundational to being, especially the longer you go.
Completely agree.
Yeah. So, Mark, specifics or answer to that question about effort and consistency, but also I'd love to know the specifics of like what do you feel like prepared Gatlin for the US 50K? Like, what were the key workouts? What do you think were the markers?
Yeah, I think definitely as the every athlete is so different. And so I think like the benefit with working with Gatlin for 3 years is like, I mean, I know him, he knows me as a coach, like we work well together. Whereas like sometimes it's like people expect results immediately and sometimes that doesn't always happen. Uh, but I think when I was looking back, our first double threshold that we did was March of 2023. And a lot of times what will alternate sometimes is doing time-based double thresholds or specific mileage. So uh, a typical one might be, hey, we're going to do 6 by 6 minutes at threshold with 90 seconds jog in between in the morning. In the afternoon, we're going to do 6 by 4 minutes or something like that. And just trying to get like 40 to 60 minutes of actual threshold work in. And I think at first it's like, hey, we're starting maybe on more like 35 to 45 minutes and then building up. And then now he'll do workouts, double threshold workouts. Well, he'll do like a 2 mile, 1 mile, 2 mile, 1 mile in the morning, and then he'll do 4 or 5 by a mile in the afternoon. Which it's always, I mean, I want to give Gatlin his credit. Like he's stress is stress, and so he'll do a workout like that, and then he'll work all day, and then he'll get a double threshold in. And so I think that's another factor to it, is maybe he's getting in these things in the workouts, but he's also getting in time on his feet at work, doing things in the hot humidity of Alabama, working on air conditioning units. And so it's like that there is an element of the communication piece with us of like, hey, I'd rather him be slightly undertrained and feeling fresh on the line than slightly overtrained, and he got everything in exactly how he was supposed to. And so
Sure.
I think, like you also mentioned, the double long run. I think that's definitely something we've played around a lot with. And I remember he was building up for the JFK 50 miler, and then last year he did the Tunnel Hill 50 miler build. And I think, like, every time we've learned something from those builds, and I think that's the cool part, is like you're you're always learning. And I think before that Tunnel Hill, I mean, he did. We had two. We call them training camps, and so it's like we have a Friday, Saturday, Sunday training camp, and that's where it's like, hey, we're gonna get in maybe 50 or 60 miles in those 3 days, but then the next week, like Monday through Friday, is basically a cakewalk, right? Just like recovering from that. And so I mean, heading into that 20 mile, that 50 miler at Tunnel Hill, I think, and maybe Gatlin, you can speak to this too. I think we maybe rode the line a little too hard on some of those sessions. And I also think, like, having an idea of like what pace can we actually run a 50 miler at sometimes is hard to know exactly based off of some training runs, because it's something you've never fully done before. But he did a on September 2024. This is in the build up to his race in November of 2024. He did a 28 miler at 6:20 pace. The next day came back and did 18 miles at 6:20 pace. And then a month later, which was also a month out or 3 weeks out from the Tunnel Hill one, he did 33 miles at 6:14 pace. And then the next day came back and did 23 miles at 6:22 pace. And I just remember, like, seeing that and being like, man, that is someone who's just built different, right?
That's
Like
really awesome.
and I think, like, the goal was getting to Tunnel Hill and saying, hey, like, we're talking about these big goals of like, man, like, what's the world record for a 50 miler like race? And Tunnel Hill is like where the fastest races have been for 50 milers. And Gatlin's like, well, I want to see how fast, like, how close can I get to running 6 minute pace for 50 miles? And I think, like, I mean, he went and did the race and ended up having a rough go and wasn't able to finish because of some different things.
Nutrition.
Yeah, nutrition. But it's like, I think he went out and we learned something from that. And I think, like, he went for it. I think if we had done like, hey, we're just gonna run 6:20 pace for 50 miles, I think he could have done that and dialing in some of the nutrition, but it's like we're going for that big goal. And
Yeah.
so I think, like, that's the balance of different things, is finding that line, and going for it, but also realizing, hey, well, we also can do a really good job if we stay under that line, and have a lot of success. And I think, like, heading into this race, that was a big thing he did well, like Gatlin alluded to. He listened to his body well. It was like just strength training for a lot of the build, and then the last 6 to 8 weeks we're like, all right, we're doing some more specific run on the type of trails and terrain as best as possible for some of these long runs, and just getting in some of that 50K effort, and then alternating that with like longer thresholds and then double thresholds as well.
So I've got two questions. One, we're definitely going to talk nutrition. That's one of my favorite topics. But before we leave kind of this idea of consistency and effort in workouts, I want to know from both of you, how does it feel when you do a double threshold or a double long run. And the reason I think that question is important is when you see a professional athlete and you look at some of the times they run, like we were in Flagstaff, Mark and I were this summer, and I went and worked out with Rory Linkletter and his group. There's 4 or 5 guys in the group, and they run 450 pace for their threshold. And, they're at 7,000 feet, 6,500 feet. But what's really interesting about that is if you do the math and you look at 450 pace for guys that are running faster than 450 pace for their marathons, right? They're running slightly slower than marathon pace. And now it is at altitude, so you got to convert a little bit there. But if you talk to them afterwards, hey, how'd that feel? Oh, it's pretty smooth. Like there's no hands on knees afterwards. They're not dying. They're not, I think a lot of people kick in workouts to get to a time, right? I think that happens all the time. Is like you have in your mind, I need to run a certain pace. And if you're behind it, like you can always run and cheat an interval a little bit, right? You can run 90% of it slower, and then you can drop a 32 200 and make up 6 or 8 seconds, right? You could do that on multiple reps. And so the workout looks really good, but you've done a completely different workout than what the goal was for that day. And so I just want to know from you guys, how do you feel on a day-to-day basis? Like Gatlin, how did you feel when you ran the 28 and you came back and did 12 more? Or I think that was right. You did 28 one day and then 12 the next.
Yeah, and then 3 weeks later did 33 and then 23 the next day.
Yeah, how did that feel physically? You're doing that, and also how does some of those 6x6 feel with 6x4 in the afternoon? Like, how does it feel while you're doing it, when you finish the first one, and when you finish the second one?
We'll start with the double long runs. The double long runs, they usually happen in the winter, except this year they happened in the summer, so that was new. A lot easier in the winter because there's like a prolonged effect of me doing all my work in the heat. So like when it gets winter, it's like very easy. In the summer, I try to keep it like comfortably, like you mentioned, as it should be. The big thing with me is I have to do all these crazy things like not to overheat. And like at work, I have to like feel like I'm working out at work. I have to like hit sodium goals every hour at work, calorie goals, healthy food, not junk. It's like sweet potatoes and avocados and rice and chicken and stuff like that at work or I'll show up feeling so it's just the effort has to just be right. It feels pretty good. I know, like you said, that my hands should never be on like my knees, ever. And I should, which Mark has mentioned this a lot, I should feel like I could do it again. Like I could do 3 more reps. And that's usually what he asks me. And that's what my gauge is. And you just kind of let the ego go on the pace because I've ran like 109 and I think I can run faster in the half. So it's like the older I get, I guess it gets easier to be like, I'm just going to run this 550 pace in 90-degree weather and that'll be okay. Because I get done and yeah, I get done and if he randomly texts me and said, I mistyped this, you need to do like 3 by a mile at the end of this. And I'd be like, okay.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating because that should be a pretty big revelation for a lot of people that you're not hands on knees dead after every workout, and that you're in your mind's eye you could do another rep or two. Here's something that I'll do sometimes when I work out and do similar stuff. Double thresholds is on my last 3 or 4 reps, wherever it technically is over, whether I'm on the trails or on the track, in my mind, even though I'm finished, I'll run another 50 meters and I will lie to myself and say, I've got 4 more minutes left. Like just to like create this thought process. Okay, I'm done with the workout, but I'm going to run an extra 8 seconds. And during that 8 seconds, I'm going to think about, okay, I've got 4 more minutes to go. Can I do it? And if the answer is yes, man, I'm probably in a pretty good spot finishing that workout. Right. So I do some little tricks like that. And sometimes I'll think to myself on the last 400 of a workout, I'll think to myself, okay, I want to run this as if I have 600 to go in a race, right? So I want to come across where I'm finishing and I'm thinking about, oh, I could still kick. Like I could kick really well right now, but I'm not going to today, but I could. So yeah, I'm interested about the long runs, how those feel, because that's got, I mean, dude, those are some of the best workouts that I think I've ever heard for longer stuff. Number one, you 100% could run 106 for the half. Like I think running that
Never know.
long for that, man, you've got that in you for sure. But how did those long runs feel? 28 and 12 is just sick.
They're fun. They're my favorite. That and double threshold are my favorite. They feel very, it's weird, and that's what kind of makes me feel like I could do it for like 50 miles, because I think the 50 miles I messed up and not Mark. I could have the nutrition stuff, but it felt good, and I think Mark will see it on the training peaks. I think he's asked a few times because there'll be like a random like 10-minute bike before I'll do one, because I just like feeling super springy and activated. And I pretend that like I start the 20 miles and I pretend that it's like the middle 20 miles, and I just get in a groove, and then I have some music, and I am a social person, but when I run, I don't really like running with people. Like there was one person used to run with a lot, um, but kind of retired, so I don't run with her that much anymore. But I do, and then also my wife, she'll be on a bike on the flat long runs, and uh, love each other to death and can talk each other's ears off, but we don't talk when we're doing that. She's having a great time, I'm having a great time, but we don't talk. I'm just blaring music, and she'll hand me stuff, and I never have to ask her to do that. She's having a great time, and I don't know, I love them, and sometimes I just like I kind of want to do a race at the end of the year just so I can do double long runs, but I probably won't. They feel super comfortable and a lot of fun. The big thing for me, and what Mark has kind of discovered, because he got me to run like, 30 something miles, is you learn how your stomach and everything's feeling. And that's the biggest thing, because you can be super fit, but if you are, fueling enough, then it gets you through 50K. That doesn't mean it's going to still jive with you at 40 miles. And we were starting to learn that we got to tweak things to where I can accept more at that pace, even though it feels comfortable. So it's just fun, and you really get to know where it is, because it's not just fitness. It's like, how is my thing working? How are my process working with fueling? Because like Tunnel Hill didn't go well. It was amazing, and then at 50K I'm amazing, and then at 35 I'm starting to like spit up what I'm eating, and I'm like, what just changed? I didn't change anything. And then it's the whole thing. But again, to answer your question, it's a lot of fun, and it just should feel comfortable. It's stiff at the end, like it's like, ow, I just ran that far, but I'm not dead. I'm not buried.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the theme. We're not trying to bury ourselves every day. We're trying to train where we can recover, absorb it, do it again, and then grow that gradually. What about you, Mark? How do those feel, and like, what's your goal for athletes?
Yeah, I think it's two things. There's obviously the mental component and then the physical component. So I think we've touched a lot on the physical component of it, but Like I think there's an element of like not everyone can have that mindset to run that far and then come back the next day and do it again. There's a very different scenario where you're in a race and you have a lot of people surrounding you, and it seemed to mean more as opposed to like it's a Friday morning and a Saturday morning and no one's around besides my wife on the bike, and like you still being able to do that. That's really impressive. But I think the goal is obviously how can we keep the ball rolling and how can we keep stacking weeks on weeks, months on months, year on year, and that's what's really gonna make him successful. And I think like the funny thing about that Tunnel Hill is like, yeah, it didn't go how we wanted, but and I think after that, Gatlin was like, man, I maybe we'll take a break. And then I was like, we're so fit, like let's just sign up for a marathon and do it for fun. And so 5 weeks later, he like we just kind of kept running, didn't even really do that much training, and he ran a 2:29 in the marathon 5 weeks
Like
after that. Like,
during like a storm. It was
yeah.
that
And
it's a fun race, but it's no disrespect to the race organizers, but I hate that course with all my life. But it was my only option, and it's very
What was the
competitive.
course?
It's Rocket City. It's a very well put on race,
I've
and
run that. I've run that marathon.
there's nothing wrong. Well, they've changed it a lot. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just me. Like I don't want to ever come off disrespectful, and I'll probably run it a few more times in my life, but it's just not for me. And but it was fun because it's very windy, and then there was like people from Florida and Ohio that were really fast, and I like always making new friends. But it was hilarious that I like PR'd because it was like didn't run that much on the road. It was hilly. It was very windy. Everyone was in a group, like not pushing, and we're like, oh, we're all gonna run like 2:35, and then we're going. But I was fit, but I didn't him. We didn't do a lot of time on the road on the long runs. They were most of them were on dirt. I think I would alternate. Like I would have double long runs almost every weekend, but if I had a single long run, like 18, if it was a step back week or 20 something, I would run on the road. But I wasn't doing a lot of my workouts on the road. So I got to like 23 and felt great, but the muscles were toast. It was total no fatigue resistance of just pounding the road for 2 hours going that fast. But
Did
yeah,
you
Mark.
win?
No, I got close. Um, it was funny because I got passed by a friend of mine from Mississippi I think I was in first till like mile 24 till mile 24, maybe 24 and a half. And then the guy who inevitably won did a move and I went with him. And I did another move going up a hill. And I'm like, cool, I won a marathon. I'm still going. He started bombing the downhill. And then that's the beginning of me realizing my quads they've left the chat. They're gone, kids. And it's like mile 26. There's like a quarter mile left, and it's all I got. And another ultra marathoner guy who, when we did JFK, he got like sixth, and I got like ninth or 10th. But I remember him because him and I were the only ones not from like out west. So he's from Mississippi and I'm from Alabama, but everyone that does those races is like Oregon, Colorado, Arizona. So he's just running past me. He goes, "Oh, hi, Gatlin." And I was like, "Oh, hi, how are you?" Glad you can make it. So it was a lot of fun. So I
It was
got
like
third.
that's like runner's trash talk, right?
No, he maybe from someone else it would have been, but one thing I like ultras, they're like very serious people, but they're like very they just seem very genuinely kind. Like that 20 miler technically 21 mile I did with Hans, he was super nice and we're like laughing while we're like trying to like beat each other, and afterwards he's like very nice. We're like road running and it's kind of like triathlon. They're just a little to themselves and it's different. But trail, they're like, let's have a good time. Let's kill each other and have a good time.
So maybe it's like nice trash talk.
I don't know. I didn't take it that way, but I
No,
don't
no,
ever
no,
think.
like in a good way. In a good way. Like
Oh,
we're
yeah,
gonna
yeah. It's fun.
we're gonna we're gonna trash talk each other, but we're gonna see who can be nicer.
Well, I think he did say, he's like, I'm surprised I caught you. And I'm like, I'm surprised I didn't even know you were in this race.
You like don't know what to say to the compliment.
I think it was a compliment. I think he
Yeah,
was, but I think he was fun. It's funny. And I was like, cool, we're on the podium. Nice.
that's awesome. Yeah, let's chat some nutrition. So what did you get wrong at Tunnel Hill? That's what I've been thinking about the last 10 minutes here.
Um, I theorize because done it. I've had these moments of where I'm running and it goes away sometimes. I don't feel like I'm because I experimented with a GCM, a glucose monitor one time. I used to think I was experiencing low blood sugar, but I would get really lightheaded randomly for like 20 minutes, and then sometimes it goes away, sometimes it doesn't. And I'm not a nutritionist. But I'm beginning to understand that even when it's cold, I need to drink a lot of like sodium, and a lot of the name brand gels don't work well with me, and I don't like. I have these cheap. Do you know the Sweat Elite guy, Matt
Mm-hmm.
Fox?
Mm-hmm.
I followed his stuff, and I think I mentioned him on Strava. I was like, I use those cheap Amazon gels you use, and they're great. For some reason, those work with me. I tried Spring Gel, but those were not what they were advertised to be. Morton gels, I'm not disrespecting them at all. They don't, and that's what I was doing. But I learned I was taking those, and towards the end, once I got 30 miles in, they started coming back up. But I got these cheap gels, which are pretty much like juice, but they're like 50 grams a pack, I think. And every race I've done recently, and even the recent two, I'm just like, oh, I didn't feel that at all. Where there would be times where I would stop to do an aid station. I'm like, I feel very lightheaded at like 20 miles in. I don't know why, and then it would go away. But at Tunnel Hill, I I think I stopped. I think like Mark said, we were on the line so bad that once I went like 3 miles of it not, because I think I started like spitting up a little bit. So I went 2 or 3 miles with not eating, and I think that was enough to just snowball effect, and then it got really, really, really bad. And the only reason I stopped because it was the week before, a few days before we were going to go to Arizona for my wedding anniversary, and my wife knows me. I'll just keep going like a horse till I'm dead. But I said she wants to do a lot of hiking. I don't want to be super sore and beat up and not be able to hike with her in Arizona. So I was like, if this doesn't turn around at 30 something or in a few miles, I need to stop or I'm gonna like affect my honeymoon type trip with my wife. So at 38, I was like, I need to stop. And it got really, really bad. Like it all came back up and it was just total nothing. It would have been me walking for like 12 miles.
So when it started to come back up, did you continue to force down like your
Yeah.
next feed time?
Yeah, because I got really good at with Morton gels because I think they worked for shorter stuff, but I think they're kind of disgusting. I think I copied what I heard, like what the David Roche guy would do. He would just essentially
Yep.
just shoot
Stick
it in
it
the
in his
back of,
mouth. Yeah.
yeah, he would just shoot it in the back of his throat. And I'm like, oh, that works because I could literally take most gels and it would make me sick. Like when I used to do really long bike races, I would just drink like maple syrup and stuff. Like, so it wasn't the sugar bothering me, but with running is different and it just bothered me. So, but I don't know, you don't know.
Yeah.
So it's figuring it out. But it really getting to like the 50K recently, and because each race was like over 3 hours. Well, the 50K is almost 4 hours. I never remotely got to that point. So I was like, nice, this is working. Because it was too.
So have you ever tried when you start to feel nauseous, skipping one feeding and but still uh, putting so are you do you ever have a bottle with like a drink in it or are you doing
Uh,
gels and then chasing it with water?
I used to do. I used to do gel. I used to do. There's this stuff that I use that I only use for biking. There's Tailwind and then there's Raw.
Mhm.
I stopped for some reason if I would drink, and I would do them light. I would do like 50 grams of carbs and like 20 ounces, and then I'd have another thing of water with just salt, and then I would like supplement the rest of it with like these gels. But that was starting to like bother me and make me feel nauseous and sick. So I learned to just have water on my left one because I would carry like 3 things with me, and
And then chase it.
I would have Element, and then I would just take 2 gels, 2 big gels, which are like juice, and I would like the first 20 minutes I would go through 20, 30 minutes I'd go through a whole thing of water that had Element in it, which is great. I would do like 1.5. So I'm doing like 1,500 or 1,000 an hour. And then I would have the water on my left hand just for because it's just nice to taste water and not anything else. And then
Yeah.
I would get 2 of those gels down before an hour, and then I would just repeat that over and over again. And then as time would go on, sometimes my wife would give me like I never drink caffeine. So when I take it, I think I can see the fourth dimension. Like it's just crazy. So she'll give me like a Coca-Cola or something like that. And that's just something fun to look forward to. And we did that the last couple of times, except the 50K because I messed up and forgot to give her the caffeine, but that wasn't going to change a thing. Uh, but that's been working really well. And then I repeated it again the next week and in a really, really hot race, except I increased the sodium and it was fine. And I finished these long races and I'm not like starving, which normally I am, because I know some people they'll finish a long race and like I can't stand the sight of food, but like most races, especially if they give out pizza, I'm like, hit me up, like I'm eating that right now.
Yeah. So the reason I was asking about how you take your fuel is there's really interesting research on uh, allowing the carbohydrate to swish in your mouth and then not drinking it, spitting it out when you have like that GI distress. So what it does is it sends the signal to your brain that says, I'm still going to fuel you, but it gives you the opportunity to digest a little bit of that carbohydrate that's still in there. And so that's the recommendation I've been giving to athletes for a while now. Like if you're in the race, like obviously it's better to drink the carbohydrate or take the gel, right? Like, because if you're digesting it and processing it and you can get it in your muscles and use it, that's the ideal. But if you run into that situation where you're like, dude, I cannot, like you feel it when you're like, if I take in anything else, it's coming up, right?
Yes.
So in that scenario, what I would suggest trying, and again, it may or may not work. If you're beyond a certain point, it's hard to come back, right? But what I would suggest trying is take a carbohydrate drink, put it in your mouth, and swish it, and then spit it out. Like, don't drink it. And then you can have a little bit of water to kind of cleanse your mouth out. So this research study, they took 4 groups. One group had a flavored beverage with no carbohydrate. The other group had a carbohydrate beverage. The other group had water, and the 4th group had nothing. So the 2 groups that performed the 4th group, the 5th group swished and spit. So you've got all these groups of people. The top 2 groups were the swish group and the group that drank the carbohydrate. So the swish group never drank anything. They just swished it and spit it. They performed better than the other groups did, the drink water group and the flavored group and the nothing group. So there's, your brain's kind of in control of everything you're doing. And if you give it signals that you're going to feed it, even when you don't, it does better. So anyway, that's just a side anecdote. If you get in that scenario, that's something that it's at least worth trying,
Good to know. That's like my worst fear with like long races is that feeling. It's not going out too fast. It's not cramping. It's not even injury. It's that feeling, that nauseous feeling. I hate it because it makes me feel like it's like I feel really discombobulated and I can just topple over. Like I despise it.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like the beginnings of like a GI distress, whether
And I think it is that, and you're correct because the next day, I mean, I'll keep it PG. It's going to the bathroom the next day is not like, doesn't happen. And
Yeah.
that's not usual for me. I'm a very,
Regular.
that department's very healthy. So it's like the
Yeah.
next, so I'm like, I guess I went that long with like no water in my stomach, even though I'm just pounding it. Like I think I consume a lot more than other, especially doing these more races with these people that are at a higher level than me, and they'll even look at me and they go, "How are you even eating and drinking that much?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I need it." How are you not?
Yeah, I think that's the second thing that I would say that is changing the game right now, at all levels. And I'm trying to get the game changed at the lower levels that maybe are less informed as well with the nutrition side. Fueling, even for high intensity stuff, like having carbohydrate, electrolytes, and water on board during your track workouts. I don't care if you're a miler, like there is a performance enhancement having carbohydrate on board every 30 minutes. Like I'm telling athletes to fuel like you're fueling, Gatlin, basically, even if they're milers, 5K, high school athletes, and it's working. It's absolutely, you recover better, you feel better during the workout. You are ahead of the game later in the day. You don't get depleted as much. So that's why this is one of my favorite topics. Is I think it is the thing that we can do better as athletes. And running comes from this weird culture of minimalism,
Yeah.
whereas cycling comes from like a maximalist culture. Like we're gonna have the most gear. We're gonna have, you know, 7 pairs of sunglasses and 4 different helmets and 3 different bikes and all this crap. And then, so I think that's extreme. But the thing cycling in those sports has gotten absolutely right is the fueling. Like we need to bring that to running. It sounds like you're already doing it, but I think we can do an even better job and it will pay off. And I know, Mark, you've been experimenting with that a lot too.
Yeah, it's fun even like at camp this summer when Blank's Nutrition came and talked about nutrition. I think, and goes into what Gatlin was saying. There's so much individualization that comes into like what type of gels work, what type of things feel good in your stomach and sit well. And part of that is like the experimentation and the process of doing that. I think some people get scared because they have a bad experience and they have that terrible feeling Gatlin was talking about where your stomach and they're just like, well, I'm just not going to do anything. I'm just going to just forget it and just run and I'm not going to fuel. And so I think having things that you look forward to, whether that is a Coca-Cola or some of the girls on the team that I work with, they bring gummy clusters on long runs. And so it's just like things that you
Ugh.
can look forward to, I think are super beneficial. And that's going to help you recover better from long runs, bounce back. And again, coming back to the conversation at the beginning, it's going to help you keep the ball rolling so that you can keep training at a high level.
It's so funny you're talking about like what you like and the athlete talking about, somebody tries it and it doesn't work and they just throw their hands up and say, I give up. I'm not doing any of it. Because I think that happens quite a bit. I think people are like, oh, the individualness of it is finding what you like and what you can handle. But the individualness of it is not saying that that doesn't work for me. I don't work like that. Well, that's not true. We're all way more similar than we are different. And we all need the fuel. We all need sodium. We all need water. We all need carbohydrate. There may be varying amounts that you can handle. And then the other thing, Mark, that uh, I forget Michael from Blanks. His last name starts with an A. Do you remember his last name? It's
Yeah.
so funny because I asked him if how many people called him Michael Blanks, and he was like, "Oh, quite a few."
That's what I called him the whole week. I really
Yeah.
thought that was his last name.
Yeah, yeah. So, but one thing Michael Blank said was that the research suggests that if you can replace even half of what you're burning on a regular basis, that you're going to get most of the performance enhancement. Right? It's just like anything, like pretty much everything works on an exponential benefit at the beginning. So it's kind of like mileage and volume, right? You've got an exponential benefit for your first like 70, 80, 90 miles that you run a week. And or even the first 10. The first 10 is even higher of an exponential benefit. And then the benefit slowly decreases the higher and higher you go until at some point it's detrimental eventually, depending on what you're training for and who you are. But the same thing's true with nutrition. So find your level. Even if it was 100 calories every 30 minutes, you're going to get a huge benefit from 100 calories every 30 minutes compared to 0, or 6 ounces of water, or 300 milligrams of sodium, and then build from there. And the goal is to see how high you can go. So Gatlin, what's your highest? What are you at per, and what's your routine? Are you feeding every 30 minutes, every 15? What are you doing?
I go between every 20 and 30, and then I people laugh at me because at home because I always eat like I'll blend up 3 bananas with protein and water, and I think that's a lot of carbs. I do that like an hour before, 30 minutes before, and then my number while running is like 100. What's funny is like biking is like 150, and it doesn't bother me at all. But like I can't
100, but you're saying 150 grams, right?
of carbs an hour on biking, which that's easy to do because I guess the stomach's not working that hard. But running, it's like 90 to 100. I've learned to like start out at 90, and then I think at the 50K the last hour was more. I think it was 120 the last hour because my wife gave me um I can accept a little more liquid at the end if I haven't been doing it the whole time because at the 50K it was like gels and element and water, but at the end she gave me like a really concentrated um, raw nutrition, that brand, and I did that with 2 gels. So that was 50 plus 90. So that was 140 the last hour. But I can't do that every hour. But I
Yeah.
think every hour before, I think the first 2 hours was like, I think it was like 90, 90, 100, and then it was like 100 and maybe 130, 140 the last hour.
So if we break it into 30-minute segments, you're going 50 grams, 200 calories, because grams times 4 is the calories for carbohydrate. So you're doing 50 grams, 200 calories every 30 minutes. Is that right?
Sounds about right. And then
Yep.
I shoot for I have to at least have like 30 or 34 ounces an hour
So
with,
16 ounces every 30 minutes.
yeah, but I slowly drink that
Yeah.
throughout the whole time. And sometimes that gets off
Yeah.
because I don't, and then sometimes the water ends up being what goes on me because sometimes I just want to feel it on my face.
Yeah.
But the sodium is like 12, maybe 1,000 to 1,500, just depends. I usually don't I'll still do like what I do in the winter or in the summer. I'll do the same in the winter. My stomach doesn't get upset. I think because I sweat so much at work, I make people disgusted by how much salt I put on my food all day long. And then my wife's like, but
Yeah.
so I don't think my stomach ever gets upset with salt. So it could be 30 degrees outside and I'll still be taking a lot of salt and it never causes a problem.
It'd be interesting for you to do just like a home salt sweat rate,
Yeah.
because you could dial in, and it sounds like you're probably someone who just has a higher sweat rate and a higher salt content in your sweat.
And then me doing the research because I'll do like I mean, I think I've done heat training my whole life because I'll be in like a 120-degree attic for like 6 hours at work. Um,
That's
apparently
crazy.
the more heat Yeah, I text him all the time because he was like, he'll text me occasionally, not every workout. Uh, he'll be like, "Good luck on your double threshold, have fun," and I'll send him a picture, and I'm like on a 3-story roof putting in like bath exhaust because I do new construction too, and I'm like, I'm recovering well, and I'm being very sarcastic, and I'm like, I don't even know how this is gonna go, and I'm like, hey, it went well because
Sauna work, man. You're just getting your like Andrew Huberman, you must do the sauna.
yeah, I think because I grew up doing it because I've done that my whole life, so I've gotten better at it because I used to. Mark has helped me do that because I'm not hungry during the day and I wouldn't eat and then I would eat a lot right before I ran and it would work, but I've learned like after months I would start to have symptoms of like you're not eating enough, chief. So I would just make myself eat lunch and then that would be all the adjustment I would need because the heat even if I'm used to it, obviously it has an effect on your appetite.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, 120-degree attic. I've experienced that before. That's brutal. Well, Mark, what do you think is the next experimentation, or is it just now dialing in what you guys have kind of already figured out for Gatlin?
Yeah, I think it's continuing to do what like keeping those major principles in perspective. And we next up on the obviously this fun trail like relay that he's doing coming up will be fun, but then doing
That's not serious at all.
but then doing a marathon coming up in 10 weeks will be fun too. And I think I don't know, I kind of like to look at it as like if you know how when you make a snowball, at first it's really small, but then you start rolling it, and if you start getting down a hill, then the bigger the snowball is, the more it keeps going. But if it's super small, it's not going to move at all. And so I think now he's to the point where it's like he's a big snowball and he's gonna keep rolling. And I think he's just getting started on some of the things he can accomplish. But I think at the end of the day, it's like I think he has a very good balance of work, friends, family, life. And I think that all of that, keeping that in balance is gonna lead to success. And so I think obviously there's the focus on training, but then we also talk a lot about, yeah, how's life going? How's planning this trip going? And Gatlin and his wife actually might come up and run a race in Lynchburg in a couple weeks. So we're trying to potentially make plans for that. So I think it's just having fun with it, not making running uh, too big so that you're on the starting line feeling like your whole identity is wrapped up in it, but realizing you got a lot of good things going on in your life, and running is a fun aspect to explore, and you're good at it. So I think just keeping that as the focus is something we're going to keep doing moving forward.
Yeah,
And
it's,
what
it's so interesting to think about running in that way. Like you want your goal so bad, and you want to like, squeeze it real tight and hold on to it and make it happen. But the real way you make it happen is you create that balance and you take care of your family and you enjoy them and you do the responsibilities you have to do, and you don't worry if it's 90 degrees and you're running 550 pace. You do what you got to do, and you let it kind of develop, and you let it come to you, and you don't force it. I think forcing it in running is like the worst thing you can do. Like if you force it in running's a lot like golf. Man, you got to let it flow. You can't force it to happen. You're not going to make it happen. It's got to be routine. You got to get a lot of practice in, and it's got to be smooth. It can't be it can't be kicking every workout to get your split in.
Yeah, I
and
love the quote, let the run come to you, don't go and get the run. I
Yeah.
think a
he
lot of
says that
times
to me a lot.
you'll feel good as the run goes on.
How many days, Gatlin, do you wake up and you're like, man, I don't even know. My body is not cooperating. Or are you
Uh,
running after work? Are you running after work mostly?
it's before and after work.
Yeah.
Because I went through a hectic period because like I work for myself, so I'm an independent contractor, and there's like one guy that works for me part time. So there was a few times I text Mark like, I'm an idiot. I should have like planned this one job out right. So now I'm like working till 9 every day. But it's like business management and project management because I was getting into like these big house projects, which I love. But no, I wake up some days and I'm like, oh God, Lord, what is this? This hurts. Or not like an injury, but like, oh no, I'm obviously very cooked from my friend Erica always tells me, yeah, you just feel like a zombie. But then I go, am I eating enough? Am I sleeping enough? Because no matter what happens to me, and my wife laughs at me, even if it means I start work at 10, I'm going to get my 8 hours of sleep because sometimes I'll get home at like 8 and I'll do a threshold at like 9 p.m. and then I eat dinner and I'll spend time with her and I'll just talk and hang out. And then I'll go to bed at like 11, which means I'm not getting up till 7, and then I work out, and then I go to work at 10, which means it's a cycle of if you go to work at 10, then you're probably not going to get off till 6 or 7. So yeah, it happens.
So part of the reason why I asked that question is I think there's a perception with some people that they're the only ones, right? Like they're the only ones that are sore or stiff in the morning, or they're the only. Why is it so easy for everyone else and it's so hard for me? Um, but it's interesting to hear that it's not easy for you in the morning to get going.
No, I think I'm dramatic in the morning because I ran with my really good friend. She's like a mentor of mine. She's like 40 something and like a really good marathoner. I laugh. I'm like, the first mile of this run, I thought my left foot was broke and I thought my right Achilles was like just out the door because it's like they're not hurt. They're just, and I've been telling Mark this and we're correcting it or helping it. They're just like really, obviously what I just did for 2 weekends in a row. They're just like really, really stiff. It's like the muscles and tendons in my left foot and then like both my Achilles are like super, super, super sore. Not like they're hurting or I injured them, but they're like stiff. So I wake up in the morning, I'm like, cool, I'm limping, but not like limping. And then I roll them out and stretch it. And then I go and run. And I tell her, Erica, I'm like, if you told me my left foot was broken, I would believe you. But then like 2 minutes later, I don't feel it at all. It's just stiff and so it's really funny. And I often think because she jokes that I'm getting old, but it's a joke. I'm 30 and I make a joke too. It's like, oh, I'm getting old. I like limp when I get out of bed, but I know a lot of that is like work and stuff, but I'm not like dying. It's just, but like you said, I hope other people feel this stiff in the morning because I take very good care of myself with strength and stretching. So I'm like, if I feel like this, what do other people feel like? Because there's
So
people that run way more than me.
So I mean, I've talked to so many athletes and asked them this question because, I don't know, 10 years ago, I was like really in my head because I'd wake up in the morning, I'm like, dude, I'm broken. And I was like, I wonder if anybody else feel like this. So, Janet Cherubon Baucom, you know Janet, don't you, Mark?
I think if I saw her face, I think I would. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I asked her, I was like, hey, how do you feel in the morning? She's like, phew, mornings are rough. And so Gatlin, I think it's hilarious that you said you're dramatic in the morning. I'm the same way, man. If I made all my running decisions with my first step out of bed, dude, I'd be in so much trouble. I wouldn't run.
That makes me feel better.
I wouldn't run at all. This morning, I kid you not, part of the reason why I asked that question, I did a double threshold yesterday, and this morning I woke up and my right knee and my calf and my Achilles, I could feel it like all down my leg, was just like super tight, like not even really injured, like you said. It was just like creaky. And I'm like limping, walking, letting the dogs out. And then what I've learned though is I think a lot of that in the morning, a lot of that stiffness in the morning, I think is the fact that you haven't drank anything in 8 or 9 hours.
Hmm.
I think it's dehydration. Because think about when you do a really hard long run and you get dehydrated, how stiff everything gets. And you're just like, really can't move well. And so, the first thing I do in the morning is have an electrolyte drink, some tea, and I just I almost can feel that water like loosening things up. And I don't try to move a lot. I just let my body kind of warm up on its own and then go through my morning run like routine to get warmed up. I jump rope every morning a little bit. And then like sure thing, I went and did my 40-minute run this morning and I felt like amazing. Totally fine. Totally
Mark
fine.
got me to the first time I met Mark in person, him and Liberty did like jumping jacks. And I'm like, before their run, and I'm like, they would do all their activation stuff, and then which is like similar to what he has me do, and then they did like jumping jacks, and I'm like, huh. So now I do jumping jacks. So my wife will come downstairs, and I'm like doing jumping jacks in our living room at like 5 o'clock in the morning, and it helps.
Yep. Yeah. So when my wife and I run together, she will I do jumping jacks too, jumping jacks, side. I do a bunch of little stuff, like nothing super hard, but just to move. And she'll see me doing jumping jacks and she'll do like stupid looking jumping jacks with a funny look on her face, making fun of me for doing jumping jacks. Yeah, it's awesome. Well, sweet. That was super fun. Anything else we missed or is interesting to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I mean, I just want to highlight just the fact that like getting to work with Gatlin is such a blessing, and I think like for anyone out there that is like getting coached or having someone out there, it's like if you have a coach that cares, like trust them and communicate with them and communicate well with them. And I think that's going to lead to success. And I think at the end of the day, um, coaching and being an athlete is all about that collaboration and figuring out what works. And so it's I just wanted to thank Gatlin too. He's been a great like person to get to coach, and I'm looking forward to what the next 3 years could look like.
And Mark does great about communicating because I think he'll think like time goes by longer than it does because he's like, I haven't talked to you in a while and it's been like 3 days, and I'm like, you have probably like 80 athletes in a college to like coach, and I'm just like, it's fine. I didn't even like, it's all good. I didn't even like stress about it or worry about it. I text him and I'm like, it's gonna be a few days because like he's married and has all these things, but he seems to balance it very well and
Yeah.
keep up with things.
It's really funny. I came up and did a indoor race and Mark and I hung out and him and his wife were in the car with me and who is Simon? Yeah, Simon Sport. And we went out to eat and I was on the phone with one of my athletes and they were needed to like I wanted to show them like a foot massage technique. And so we were like FaceTiming and Mark's driving. And then I took a call real quick at dinner and stepped out and Mark was on the phone and like we were doing all this. And his wife's like, so I was like, oh, okay. So both of you guys do this, huh? So Gatlin, I think the real thank you needs to go probably to both of our wives
Oh
because
yeah. Yeah.
putting up with the randomness of coaching. Like it really is, man. At any point we could be on the phone or texting or whatever. But yeah, I've seen Mark in action and man, I've said so many times to so many athletes, man, he's an amazing coach and he cares so much. And I think that is what it takes. Like if you care about your athletes and your athletes communicate well, you're going to have awesome success. Hey, Mark, September 8th, I'm flying to Utah to hang out with Mark Swenson for a week.
Really?
Yeah, he invited me out. I'm so pumped, dude.
Yeah. Training out, you'll hang out with Connor Mance and Clayton.
I'm assuming I was gonna try and meet Ed Eyestone because I've never met him before, but I think he's gonna be in Tokyo.
Yeah, I wonder that because he's also coaching a NCAA team, so maybe I'm sure he'll be around the area, but maybe
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the season, oh yeah, their season will have started. Yeah. Huh.
we got our first meet tomorrow for NCAA cross, so it'll be
Interesting. I wonder if August still get to meet him. Well, yeah, I think uh Mike is trying to set up to where we can do like a workout with those guys. So that'll be fun.
well, you have to
Or well, let me preface a workout behind those guys. Yeah. I maybe could do like if they were doing like, let's see, if they were doing like an 8 mile tempo, I could maybe do like 800s, but then I don't know what would happen after the second one.
They'll have to do it on a track, so you can just hop in.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, thanks, guys. Gatlin, super cool to chat again, and definitely want to hear how the marathon goes. So let me know, and yeah, man, super pumped for you, and thank you for sharing. And I think this is huge for people to hear some of these things about fueling well and about the fact that we're both creaky when we wake up in the morning. And, I mean, we're all in the grind together and parts of running suck and parts are really fun. So
If it was easy, everyone would do it. That's the hard
right.
work makes it worth it.
That's right. Well, cool, guys. Hope y'all have a good day.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate the opportunity.
See you later.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.